Alright, today we're going to show you how to start using Cadence to make your own music. Alright, so you come over here into create mode. Now, compared to the game, this presents you with an interface which can be quite intimidating. There's lots of buttons down here, and there's buttons up the side and up the top, and oh my god, what does it all do? Fortunately though, once you know how to interact with the system, it's actually quite straightforward. So you see you've got the start button here. When you press A, it sends out a pulse. But it's got nowhere to go to, so let's create some nodes. We drag out from there, and let's just make ourselves a quick little loop. So now we've got 4 little notes, and they're gonna loop into each other. So when I hit this button, wonderful, we've already got music. Now that's great and all, but one little looping bar is not particularly interesting. So what we can do is we come to our tiles here and we put down another sync node, and then if I go back to nodes, and these circles are the relays, and I just drag, and if I press A again, alright, now they both play in a kind of like a harmony with each other. But if I wanted them to play at different times, what I could do is select this one, change it to B, and this little menu here, and then when I hit B, that plays by itself, and then when I hit A over here, it takes over. So already, if I hit B again, and back to A, we've got something very simple happening. Simple, but already quite expressive. Now, if I wanted to edit the notes, so let's say I've got B, it's sounding cool, but Cadence has just kind of generated a bunch of notes for you. What notes is it actually playing? Well, you can come into this view here. So it's bottom left corner, this grid editor, and when I press B on my keyboard or hit the button here, I can actually see those notes happening. So what if I wanted to take that high note, for instance, and give it some accents or break it up a bit? So the grid editor by default is set to the scale. So what that means is not 100% of the time, but pretty much anything that you click in here is gonna more or less sound kind of okay, and that's great if you don't know any music theory. If, however, you want a bit more control, you can kind of get this more traditional piano view, but for now, it should just be good enough to come in here. So I've clicked around, I've changed a few notes. I didn't think too hard about that, in case you think that I am some kind of, that you need to know music theory to make something that sounds nice. It's just really about playing around. So if I hit B again, it's now got that falling pattern that you can hear. And I was literally just clicking randomly, but it sounds interesting, and that's one of the great things about Cadence. So now we can go from A, and when we're ready, we can click on B, and it changes the pattern. Alright, so now, that gives you a pretty basic example, but one of the great things is you can very easily change the sound that's happening. So I can come in here, and, if I don't like those mallets, maybe I want like a sort of nice soft round tone. I select default, which is a preset. You can see there how, very quickly you can just play around and start getting cool things happening, even if you don't know the music. This one's pretty cool usually. Much more aggressive, you see. So I kind of like, this is one of my favorite presets. Let's try this out. Right, so this is very cool, but I'm still having to sit here and manually change the note. So what happens if, let's say I wanted this to play 3 times, and then the 4th time I wanted B to play, and then that would play once just to be an accent, and then go back to A. So how would I do that? Well, there's a couple of nodes that kind of allow you to do this kind of synchronization. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a count. And what that count's going to do is, let's put that over here rather, is it's going to let me count the number of times that it's been hit. So set that to 3, and I'm going to need to connect it up. And then what I want to do is once it's counted 3 times, I want a, okay, that's not going to be the right one there. I want a send. And so a small note with tiles, you can't drag and draw like you do. You have to double click and then it places one there. And then I need to connect these two together. So these instant lines, unlike these directional lines, so that would take 1 beat to go from the 3 to the A, but an instant line kind of skips that. So as soon as this count tile would fire, this A tile will fire synchronized with it. Now, right now, this is going to trigger the A tile, which would already be playing. So what we need to do here, set that to B, and then what's going to happen is the third time, so it's going to play 1, 2, 3, and then the third time B is going to send a message, and then that will automatically push B for you. So if we hit play, so we've got that set up, and then to go back, I could just create another send here. That's back to A, and if we hit play, okay, so actually here's an example where I might want to use the normal lines just because it was actually missing a beat. So generally in music you want things to be, well, at least in Western pop music, things to be in 4s because that's what our ears are used to. And as you can see in this grid, you know, a sort of little grid of 4 is a shape that's sort of, you know, it's a square. It's quite easy and quite natural to draw in the system of Cadence. So again, that's little ways in which the design of Cadence kind of points you kind of without really noticing it kind of towards musical structures, but you know, without at the same time without really forcing you into them. So right, we've already done that, and now one of the cool things that you can do is you can add other instruments to this. So the first thing I would do here is, you see this is my synth that's playing here. If I change it, I get a different sound. Let's go back there, and I need to add a new instrument. So there's drums, which can be quite stripped down at the moment, or you can add another synthesizer, which gives you access to the same presets. So let's say I wanted a nice soft sort of sound. Let's use a pad sound, and I'm going to create a new sync node over here. And unfortunately, the colors on these, once we did the visual refresh, the colors on these nodes aren't quite reflecting, but you can see this has got a different color assigned, which tells you that it's the second instrument. And if I draw out something there and press A, you can see we've now got 2 instruments playing together with each other. And just for an example, if I give you a third one, which is the drum set, and I come in here and put that note down, it's got this color assigned, and I'm going to draw out my nodes. Alright, we're now getting sound. And now you can see, it, you know, that was very quick to do. It's maybe sounding a bit discordant, so what we would have to do is actually start to pay a bit more attention to the notes that are playing. So I would come into here, hit play, for instance. I don't want to hear the drums, so I can just disconnect those, hit A again. So, you know, maybe I want everything playing, you know, sort of register close to itself. You know, it's quite a good idea to kind of have instruments sort of be in their channel. So, you know, you might have a bass instrument which kind of has bass tones on it. You might have an instrument that's you know, you mostly got higher tones, because otherwise they kind of tend to clash with each other. If I play this again, right, it's not perfect, but you know, for something that we threw together very quickly, it already like points you in a direction. And that's one of the great things, is that, you know, every time you hit a new track, so literally if I go do this, new composition, it gives me a new key, gives me a new tempo, and a new preset. So literally you can always just come here, you can draw out your nodes, hit play, and you've got a completely different feel happening, or a completely different mood. And yeah, I mean, basically, if you play around with that, you know, once you get to the point where you're happy with what you're doing, or let's say you're making puzzles and you want people to test out puzzles. So an example of that might be, I could put an out node here, and then maybe a count node here. So a very easy puzzle. This is basically the sort of second level in the game. Give some people something to fill in and connect those. And if you want to test out the puzzle that you've made, you've got this little preview window here where you can try out the puzzles in the way that you know, they would work in the game, and then you can go exit preview to go back to the editor. And the final thing you can do is, if you've created something that you're happy with, you can then upload it to Steam. So you can come in here, give it a name, and then that will, provided you're logged into Steam, upload it to the workshop. Right, there's one more thing to go over. So, you know, earlier we saw how we could start to use some of the logic nodes to, you know, begin giving some logic to the way things are playing. So, ooh, that's not good. That's an older version. So let's just go to one that's not the copy. Hopefully this doesn't crash on me. There we go. So this is a version where I've actually taken that concept a bit further. So what's going to happen in this is, if I hit A, this is playing, and then as soon as I press B, it sort of opens up this gate here, which then starts playing a second melody on top of it. Now, that can be really powerful. So, you know, a lot of these units like counters and gates and switches are kind of the things that you use in electronics to make, to do computations, and to, you know, it's basically what your computers are built out of. So, for example, here is a flip-flop. And basically, if you look in electronics, a flip-flop is when it receives one input, the other input goes high or low. So, in other words, I hit B, it's coming out here. As soon as I hit A, it flips around to the other side. I hit B again, it's back to A. And, you know, the thing is, you've got all of these little building blocks. So because this is possible, you know, someone who is crazy enough could theoretically start to build a, you know, a computer or a calculator of sorts that was literally made out of these musical components. I have no idea what, you know, you crazy people might do with that, but for someone who really wants to go deep, you know, there's literally, the possibilities are endless as to what they could do here. Anyway, I think that's enough for now, and yeah, hopefully that's enough for you to get started, and look forward to seeing what you make.